Now, our next speaker has come all the way from Australia to be with us today, which is a reasonable commitment. Ciaran is an expert in fixing the #1 problem facing most companies, which is not enough sales. So travelling all the way from Australia, can we have a big round of applause, please, for Ciaran McGuigan. Ciaran!
Good morning. Quick survey. I know we're putting our hands up quite a lot today, but I want to quite quickly get a good idea. How many people in the room like shopping? That's fantastic, because I love selling things, and me and you, we should get to talk and have a bit of a chat. Now, I know that Alex said he's all the way from Australia, and you're saying, wait a second, there's something wrong with the accent here. It doesn't quite work out. That doesn't sound like an awkward Australian, although my relatives think that I do. I've lived in Australia for the past 18 years. And I want to work with you today in terms of cramming in as much as we possibly can in the next 40 minutes. And that requires a little bit of determination on your part. That requires you to take notes. That requires you to actually do something beyond the norm, beyond your bums getting comfortable and doing anything. Is that okay? Can we have that agreement before we go anywhere? Yeah? Everybody's okay? All right, okay. How many of you remember the first time you sold something? Do you remember that? Do you remember that moment when you walked into a shop, cold, knocked on the door perhaps, you walked in and you walked out with a check in your pocket and you sort of danced down the street a little bit and you're going, isn't this great? This selling business is so easy. All I have to do is remember a particular technique, go in, say these words, and people are going to buy things from you. Well, I want you to go back in time and think about that moment and capture that moment, because that's probably why you got into sales. Although I have to say that most salespeople that I've met are what I would call accidental salespeople. Is that right? When you're in high school or secondary school and the careers officer or someone's going around asking people, so what do you want to be when you grow up? How many of you said a salesman or a salesperson? Most of us want to be firemen or doctors or truck drivers or whatever it may be. Very few people say, I want to be a salesperson. That doesn't happen. So if we accidentally find ourselves being salespeople, well, there has to become a time when we start doing things on purpose. And that's where we start combining method with passion. And today is full of passion. There's lots of passionate people in the room on both sides of the stage. And I want to share some of that passion with you. I want you to go back to that time. Because I was thinking about this the other day. I spoke at a seminar a few years ago, actually, and I had a group of young, new to the business, new people that really hadn't sold much at all. They'd been about 3 months in the business, and I had one young recruit who was really keen. He just loved the idea of selling. He hadn't actually sold anything. He'd been trying really hard, and he came up to me at the end of the seminar and said, is there anything, can you give me anything that's going to keep me in this business? And I asked him to do something for me. I said, right, what I want you to do is complete this metaphor. And I'd like you to do this now. In your workbooks, I want you to get your pens out and write down and complete this sentence. For me, selling is like ... Okay? For me, selling is like, and whatever it is, we're not going to share it or do anything like that. I want to share what he said to me. He said to me, for me, selling is like sticking pencils in my eyes all day. Now, I said, I'm taking a guess here, but I'm guessing that you don't enjoy sticking pencils in your eye. And he said, yeah, but there's something in me that just keeps doing it. I'm there, I'm on the phone. Every time I ring the phone, ring the customer, pick it up. It's a bit like picking up one of those HB or 2 H's and they're jabbing it in. Look at this bloodied mess of all these pens sticking out, if you can imagine. But there are times when you're trying to develop new business and when you're pushing and trying to push the edge, when making the numbers, making the calls is tough. When pushing the numbers out is a little bit like sticking a pencil in your eye or walking on glass. Now, some of you may have completed a slightly different metaphor. But when I was working with Sean and I came back to Sean, I said, okay, I want to give you something. I want to give you something which you can take away and you can use tomorrow that will make your life easier, more effective. And I want to share that with you here today. Okay? Yeah? In fact, I want to go beyond that. I want to share 6 things, 6 secrets or 6 tips, if you like, that I have found personally in my life to have a fundamental impact on my success. And they're fairly simple. Some of you may have heard of before. But when Sean spoke to me, I've got a little bit of a model I want to draw here. I realized that there were, in any salesperson's life, there are really, it's a combination of 2 things. There's, can you see that? Yeah. There's our enthusiasm, and then there's our, what I call new business development activity. Okay, so that's high, low, high, low. That's my only model for the day, by the way, so I'm not going to go further than that. But essentially, there we go, it's good, people see it. Essentially, most of us, when we start off in that job, when we've got our first sell, when you've got that glory of walking back into the office, that big dealer, that big account has come across, they've signed the piece of paper, you've got it in your arm, you've got that high level of enthusiasm. Or when you've started a new job, just imagine you've been promoted. You've gone, for some reason, salespeople love getting cards with manager written on them. I don't know what that is. You know, life was pretty good when you're just a regular salesperson. Then you become a manager, and it becomes an absolute pain in the bum. But anyway, we all start off up here in this quadrant. Okay, high levels of enthusiasm and high levels of business activity. You come into the office, you spend your first couple of weeks or months on the phone, picking up the phone, ringing all your customers, going, oh, hi there, I just wanted to call and introduce myself. I just happen to be in the neighbourhood and I'm your new account manager. There's loads of activity like that. Sound familiar? And your customers, because they don't know you, will always grant you that first meeting. They'll always say, yeah, come and see me. Love to see you. Now, I found out the reason why they love to see you is because they reckon they can probably get a good discount from you because you're new and you want to improve or impress them. What happens after a period of time, and this may be 6 months. By the way, I think I'm drawing here everybody's resume. When you stop and think about this, I think you're going to see your resume. Certainly mine's in there. What happens after a month, 2 months, 3 months, we move here from this high level of enthusiasm. This is where we were boring people at dinner parties. You know, we're coming along, you're saying, oh, they're such nice people. You know, they've given me an American Express card and I've got a really nice parking spot. Their customers are great, you know, they love me. And, you know, it's just so easy. It's just such a great place to work. I should have moved ages ago. You know, I should have made that move. You know, I always thought they were the opposition, but, you know, they're really nice people. After a few months of contacting all these people with all of this enthusiasm, what happens is that your new business development activity, okay, declines because you're spending more of your time speaking and talking and servicing those accounts that you want. A few of the doors you knocked on, they said, come on, yeah, come in and see me. You went and saw them, you won some business, and all of a sudden, you find yourself with those still high levels of enthusiasm, but you're over here in quadrant 2 because you've got low levels of business development activity. And you think you're doing well. In fact, you probably are. Your figures are looking great. Then, there's a moment in everybody's career. In fact, I've had quite a few moments in my career where you think it's in the bag. You know that big deal or that contract where the client promised that it was going to be faxed through to you by Friday at 3 o'clock? He swore that it would be there. And you're standing beside the fax machine or waiting for the email to come through. And you're standing looking at it going, you know, I'll just ring them to check that everything's okay. And you ring them up and you go, in fact, I always bring my mobile phone with me. You ring them up and you're having a bit of a chat. You said, John, I just wanted to give you a call to check that everything's okay, that there aren't any problems you're in, because I was expecting that contract to be through by Tuesday. And then on the other end of the phone, what do you hear? You hear a flinch or a pause or a hesitation with a dead set, a certain piece of business on the other end of the phone goes, yeah, I've been meaning to speak to you about that. Now, what do you know right here in the pit of your stomach at that moment in time? You know that 48% of most salespeople give up after one attempt to make customers close deals, not salespeople. Salespeople open deals. Customers close them. So when you start putting pressure on a customer to say yes, they'll feel that pressure, and their natural reaction is to say no. I much prefer, and I encourage you to do this, is the difference between, you know the difference between a trial close and an actual close? An actual close asks for a decision. A trial close asks for an opinion. Voicemail is probably one of the most useful sales tools that you could ever have. You just got to use it properly. Hello, it's Ciaran here from XYZ Consulting. The reason we wanted to speak with you is because we've got this really great idea, and if you get the time, please, would you mind coming along? Now, you sound like Joe Jr. Yeah. And if I'm encouraging to sell up at the C-class level, it comes through as like, oh, hello, do you want to come out and play? Please, can you come out and play? And these guys don't want to play. They want something that's going to be at a similar stature to them. So the first thing you've got to do with your voicemail is change the tone of your voice. There's an implication to that. It's like, oh, that sounds serious. I better ring them back. What the hell's that?